Okay, so the Shorty Bench from Prime Fitness. Now, I don't know what people want to know, and I don't pretend to be some king dingling product reviewer or anything like that. I mean, I pray you'll never see me with 17 benches in my gym, and to be fair, it was feeling pretty claustrophobic with just 2. That's not a jab at anybody who does that, by the way. It's just not me. I'm just some dude or man who parks in gym, and I guess I'm just nerdy enough to want to talk about it with just about anybody who will listen, and that is where you come in. Now, I've been using this bench exclusively since I purchased it, and since I have made a list of things that I love and things that I hate about the bench, and most, if not all, of the attachments so far. So if there's something specific that you want to know about the Shorty Bench or any of the attachments released so far, feel free to drop a comment and let me know. I will respond. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and jump right in. My freaking go-to expression. Jesus, man. Come up with something different. I want to try to keep it short and sweet because, believe it or not, I don't love talking in front of a camera, and these videos take forever to make. So, in no particular order, let's do this in a format that I'm going to call Love-Hate, where I'm going to point out something that I love and I'll follow it up with something I hate, and it's all about the Shorty Bench from Prime Fitness. I love how quickly and easily the attachments are to install and uninstall on the bench. In most cases, I can do it with one hand. I don't even have to reach, look, or feel around under there to find the right place to put it. It's crazy. I just stick this thing in there, lift it till it clicks, and it just goes. I don't know. I've been really impressed by that because the first thing that tends to come to my mind whenever you start talking about attachments of any sort is, I bet that is a pain in the ass. The stand. What the fuck, Prime? I know, to bitch about the Shorty not coming out with a standing feature is not only the low-hanging fruit, but it also feels kind of lame because I knew that it didn't have a stand when I ordered it. But I can't talk about things that I hate about the bench without mentioning the lack of a stand. It's imperative in a home gym, but what pisses me off the most is that they had the time to get it right. They definitely took the time to release the bench, and let's be honest, they got this feedback from the original adjustable bench. Like, this is not new, okay? And although I understand that Prime may have something in the works to address this, I can't help but feel a little bit slighted by the idea that they would ignore the feedback, release the bench, and then decide that it'll be cool just to come up with some sort of an upgrade later that we'll most likely be forced to purchase separately, probably for like $300, just so that the bench will stand up like just about every other bench released in the last 5 years already does. But hey, at least with the Prime stand, we know it's going to be well made and packaged really well. And I love the storage. If you can't tell by now, I love storage almost as much as I love the equipment itself. And it's weird because nothing else in my life is nearly as well organized as my gym space, but for some reason I feel like I can't function in a messy ass gym. So the dedicated space for each piece not only alleviates my need to have shit not laying all over the floor, but it also satisfies my bougie desire to have a nice, neat, and professional, cohesive looking gym space. The decline position on the Shorty Bench sucks. I mean, it's probably great if you're like 5'3", but I'm a fairly average height dude at 5'11", and because you have to remove the headrest in order to attach the foothold attachment for the decline position, my skull hangs halfway off the end of the bench. Maybe if I only used it for things like core exercises, it wouldn't be so bothersome, but using it for an actual decline bench specifically just makes me feel like I'm using a child's bench. It's fucking weird. I actually love the bench pad, okay? The width, the non-grippy vinyl, the thickness, the softness, and like anything else, this is totally subjective, but I really do like it on this bench. Now, I'm not a power lifter, and I don't have shoulder injuries or anything like that, and the bench press movement itself is as much an accessory lift for me as any other lift. I know, puss, whatever. Look, I'll be 44 this year, and at this point, I really just don't care as much about my 1 rep max as I do care about whether or not my weight bench serves me for the best for all of the other things that I use it for, like not impeding my ability to go through a full range of motion on flies without feeling too much bench at one end of the movement, for example, or if I'm using one of my too many cambered bench bars that I own for no real reason at all, I don't really want to feel any more of the edges of my bench pad when I'm getting my way, or even just in my mind at least, at the very bottom of the lift than what is absolutely necessary. You know what I mean? Like a thick, grippy bench pad is great for the bench press movement. It is. In fact, you can get one thick, grippy, and wide enough, like say the Donnie Thompson Fat Pad, and it's even going to add a few superficial pounds to your bench press and make it look like you're a lot stronger than what you actually are. But anyway, seriously, there's something synergistic about the combination of the pad width, the thickness, and the relative softness and the non-grippy vinyl that I feel just works to my advantage in a lot more scenarios than what I've been able to appreciate with the wider, thicker, and grippier bench pads. Now, I will say though, if you're someone who likes a bench that's comfy enough to sit on while you play with your phone between sets, this one starts to feel really thin really fast. Definitely not passing the lazy boy test in that regard. Oh, earlier I talked about the decline position, but also the decline attachment itself is underwhelming. I don't know if maybe I'm just spoiled by the Rogue version that I had prior to purchasing this, but something about the tiny little foam rollers and the weird distance between them just doesn't feel right. You may have a different experience, but other than having a smaller profile for storing it on the wall compared to the Rogue, where storage is never a real consideration, I kind of hate that thing. Ladder style adjustment is nice. I like that I can sort of move it from one position to another with one hand, and it lends itself to a nice open area behind the pad so as not to interfere with the cables during some of the exercises that I like to do. Man, I hate the price of this thing. It's expensive, and I know it's high quality, it's multifunctional, space saving, made in the USA, blah, blah, blah. I get all that, I do, but it's still a lot of money, especially when you start adding all the accessories, which don't even get me started on the fact that the discount code MWPiG5 does not apply to the accessories. But now, anyway, I'll say it, it is my philosophy that instead of wishing for things to cost less money, maybe we should waste our wishes for more disposable income so that, we could maybe not be as affected by the price of things. I don't know. It sounds good anyway, but at least in one of those scenarios, you have the control over whether or not that wish could actually come to fruition or if it just sinks to the bottom of the well. The removable headrest is so cool. I love this feature. In fact, this was actually one of the deciding factors for me. It's a smart design. It's one of those where as soon as I saw it, I was like, shit, man, why aren't all benches made like this? I mean, it's not a requirement, but it is really nice to have for things like military press, reverse cable flies, so I'm not smashing my fucking face into the back pad. Even putting it at an angle and using it for things like chest-supported dumbbell rows or flies just makes sense, especially when you add the dumbbell cradle into the equation. Of course, because this is such a good idea, we've already seen something similar from Exponent Edge, and AbMat also recently released a pad that intends to serve a similar purpose as well, so I suspect others are not far behind. So if that is the feature that would push you over the edge, but you hate everything else, maybe hold out, as I'm sure you'll see this on some other bench that may have specs that you maybe are more to your liking. Okay, so I kind of hate the centering device. I just imagine two absolute nerds just standing around trying to come up with a name for it. Centering device is the best they had. Anyway, first, there's no reason to own it if you don't have the Prodigy rack. If that's not obvious, I don't know. But even with the Prodigy rack, there's almost no reason to own it. I thought it would be great for keeping the bench locked in while I do cable exercises, and it does do that very well. But it's such a pain in the ass to get it all set up and adjust, and then I end up just leaving it stored on the top of my rack anyway. I do think it has potential though. I mean, for example, if the plunger pin was the locking type, where you can like pull it out, turn it, and it holds the pin back so you can make your adjustment, then you turn it back to engage, drop it in, and they're all done. That would definitely make the fore and aft adjustment easier. Since the bench is so heavy that you can't really move it back and forth with one hand while you hold the pen with the other, but as is, man, fuck this thing. I love that Prime was thoughtful in staggering the placement of the adjustment points for the back pad to range from 10 degrees to 5-degree increments in the areas where it makes the most sense. For example, the incline position allows for an incremental changes in 5 rather than your traditional 10, and then changes from 35, 45, 55, 65, etc. Now, this allows the user to really kind of fine-tune the angle that best meets their individual needs, be it more chest versus deltoid as the primary focus. So several benches released in the more recent past have this feature, and I'm just glad that Prime did not go full simp with the Shorty in that regard. Okay. This rubber foot pad is dumb. I mean, it feels petty, but I don't care. The number of times that I have to pick this damn thing up off the floor and put it back on is annoying enough that it made the list. So If Prime does ultimately release some sort of a stand attachment, let's just hope it includes a tube of glue or something like that, because it does not take much to knock that thing off, and the odds of doing so are greatly increased when the bench is stored in the upright position. I like how easy this bench is to move around the gym. The wheels are nice, it's easy to navigate. With the headrest removed, it feels oddly nimble, if that's a thing. I mean, I know it's not actually different, it just feels like it because it looks smaller, I guess. I don't know, but after smashing my hands on the weird dangly handle on the Rogue AB3 for the last 5 years, I also really do appreciate having a fixed handle on the Shorty Bench. Which brings me to my next point. The fixed handle is nice, but the placement of it kind of sucks. I mean, I'm not left-handed, so the fact that I kind of think of this as a right-handed bench is a little weird. My old bench had a center-mounted grip, which, being one of the most adaptable creatures ever to walk the earth, I've managed to adjust to the side-mounted handle just fine, but I still prefer a center-mounted handle, or at least maybe give us a symmetrical second handle on the left-hand side so I don't have to plan my life around which hand I can be holding something in when I need to move the bench. The preacher pad and dumbbell attachment are really cool, which is crazy because I wanted to hate it so bad. Like, not even gonna lie, I had a dedicated preacher bench for a while, a really nice one, and I loved it. But in order to make room for bigger and better leg machines, I had to make a choice. I feel like I've owned pretty much every attachment that ever attached, and I've kind of come to the conclusion that attachments suck when you compare them to the real thing. And I'm not saying that this doesn't have attachment vibes at all. I'm just saying once I figured out the proper combination of back pad angle and seat adjustment settings, the preacher attachment not only satisfies my expectations of what a preacher bench should be, but ultimately sealed my decision not to buy the double-sided preacher from Prime. I mean, maybe. But either way, it says a lot because I really want an excuse to make that thing fit in my space. Okay, I touched on this earlier. This may be lame, I don't know, but neither my link, which is in the description below, nor my discount code, MWPiG5, will save 5% on the attachments for the Shorty Bench. It does apply to the bench itself, which is great. Like, I'm really not trying to sound like a dick, but you have to admit it's almost laughable when you add it all to the cart and realize you're spending over $2,000, but you get a $36 discount or whatever it is. I don't know, maybe I am a dick, whatever. I like that the bench comes in custom color options. Even though I ultimately end up getting the most basic pitch black, I do like having the option. And believe it or not, of the 77 or so subscribers I have amassed on the channel, I don't think Prime is one of them, so I don't expect him to see this or ask for my opinion on, well, anything really, but that won't stop me from sharing it while we're on the topic of custom colors. I'm going to reiterate, I like that custom colors are an option. I'm someone who takes advantage of that option, and I use that expression loosely because, let's be honest, at $150, who's really taking advantage of who over here? But seriously, it's a tough pill, and if it really takes $150 to change the color, maybe consider just, I don't know, raise the price of all of them by $150, then offer a discounted price for charcoal. I mean, it's the same concept. It's just a pricing strategy that makes people like me feel like I'm not getting raw dogged by the equipment company that I'm trying to support. I don't know why this one sounds so ranty when it's technically something that I love. I do like having custom color options, even if it means that I have to do the mental gymnastics for myself to justify the additional cost. So the elbow pads, they're not bad. In fact, I really struggle to say I hate them because it's really maybe not quite accurate. They are cool in how they attach, and I definitely prefer them over not having them if I'm going to do something like an incline dumbbell curl or incline cable curl. I'll admit I have not tried a floor press with this because I just don't see the point, but regardless, with the preacher attachment being as good as it is, I just don't find myself using these as much. Maybe I'm leaving gains on the table, maybe that will change over time, but for now, I'm saying skip the elbow pads and just go with the preacher attachment. I love that the Shorty Bench comes damn near fully assembled, well packaged, and it doesn't require a fucking 18-wheeler to deliver it like my Rogue AB3 did. Now, I'm not talking shit about the AB3. That bench was simple and sturdy, and I loved that, but I'm like so deep in this home gym addiction thing that every time another fucking freight truck pulls up to my house, I'm like, ugh, please hurry and get the fuck out of here. Like, I feel dirty. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I've become. I'm going to preface this by reiterating that I do love how the removable headrest converts this thing to an upright utility bench that goes a step further than a traditional utility bench by also allowing use in multiple adjustment points all the way down to the declined position if you so desire. However, I hate that it does not have any sort of footrest like you'd find on a true upright utility bench. I know I could use something like dumbbells or a Wessie from Oak Club, but those things aren't exactly locked in, and they do require some additional steps that I'm just not willing to take. So I'll just complain about it and hope that maybe I can bitch it into existence. But think about it, Prime. Maybe like an attachment that uses the square holes on the front of the frame, extends out however far you think makes the most sense, and has an adjustable foot peg at the end to accommodate different user heights. You could even use one of those bright-ass green knobs that everybody loves so much. Seriously though, do it. Do it. Do it. Okay, so let's sum this up. And to do so in one word, I would say conflicted. That's pretty much how I felt about the bench since I first received it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was apprehensive and I didn't immediately just fall in love with it. As I've continued to use it for all the things, since I've sold all my other benches and this is the only one that I own, I do find that there are things I really like and appreciate. There are also some things that I just don't prefer, and I even find that a few things that I kind of hated at first have since grown on me. So, conflicted. Because if you gave me the option to choose any other bench on the market today, I'd still go with this one, even though I don't absolutely love every aspect of it. Seems weird to say that, but it's how I feel. Well, today anyway. And that's mostly because at the end of the day, it's the only bench available that gives me a flat, incline, decline, a formidable preacher, an adjustable upright utility bench with the footprint of a bench and attachments that aren't a pain in the ass to set up. And because I actually do use all of those features, I find that this bench, despite some of the perceived shortcomings, actually serves me very well. Honestly, I don't ever want to pretend like I know what's best for most people, but I think it's safe to say that this bench probably ain't it. I do think, though, if your workout style is more similar to mine, or if your workout space is limited but you want more options from your bench, this is definitely one to consider. Alternatively, if you're fortunate enough to have a 2-bench household, the Shorty Bench would be an amazing secondary bench over your more typical secondary flat bench. Reason being, the narrow pad is great for things like flies and cambered bar bench press, the removable headrest for things like reverse cable flies, and all the things you can do with an upright utility bench, for example. Preacher curls, because the pad and the dumbbell / curl bar cradle, because the setup and storage on that is easy enough that it really does make it hard to justify a standalone curl bench. And of course, you can do anything on this bench that you would see done on a traditional flat bench, except, stand it upright. So in my mind, the Shorty as a secondary bench would make so much more sense than a traditional adjustable bench plus a flat bench that you tend to see in most 2-bench home gym setups. Those are my thoughts on the Shorty Bench so far. I do look forward to seeing some new attachments for it in the near future. Maybe that leg extension, leg curl attachment they've been teasing, I don't know. Not that the discount code is likely to apply to that or whatever else they might come up with. But again, I'm not bitter, I'm just kind of a dick.